the hyper-political Christian left who claims, wait for it, that they're apolitical. They're not even political at all. But in reality, they're actually hyper-political. Even when they don't think they're being political, they have been so changed by the zeitgeist of the time. You might call it the spirit of the age, the milieu, to use a word we used last week. Thank you for the French. It's a certain, I don't know what you call it, as the French might say. Anyway, the point is this. The hyper-political Christian left who says they're not being political. We're just apolitical over here. We're just keeping it kingdom. But are they, or have they been so suckered into the day that they have swallowed the zeitgeist of the moment and then say, well, that's what's normal, and then have begun preaching something that is actually extremely unethical, extremely unbiblical. We talked about that last week. Today, we got a lot of receipts. We're going to put them on trial today because guess what? We're back. We're back. It's been a hard year so far, but we're back, and we're back in the saddle again, and we're about to get buck wild on Cooper stuff. Cooper stuff! Welcome back to Cooper Stuff, everybody. I hope you are doing very, very good. Last week, we talked about this whole idea of pastors being political. We had a whole thing about it. I tried to do my very best to explain my position, and I'm just going to sum it up here in like 10 seconds. What I'm trying to say is this. Is it possible that people don't think they're being political, but they really haven't understood ethics from the Bible, and so they get suckered into false positions because they're just so inundated and transformed by the world? I'm not even saying they just love sin and so they're just transformed to evil and they love the flesh. I'm not even saying that. I'm saying they're suckered into it and it just begins to seem normal. And so then if you start thinking that the ways of the world are just normal and that's the way things should just go, you end up bashing traditional Christians and Christians who are just trying to hold fast to what is good. We're just trying to hold fast to what we've been taught. What the former time, we're holding on to what we were taught in the former days. We're holding on to what we thought was historic Christianity. We're putting forward biblical arguments, but these Christian leaders that are going left and left and left, the arguments they're putting forward just don't hold any water at all. That's what I had to say last week. I'm trying to be gracious by saying, I understand there are some pastors that don't want to get into that stuff. I got love for you. I understand where you're coming from. By the way, I received a bunch of great comments, interesting comments. I enjoyed reading them. Several pastors hit me that were watching the show, which as I always say, I'm surprised you watch the show. I ain't all that smart, but I hope I'm an encouragement to you and whatnot. Several pastors hit me and said, John, I consult what is happening in the world all the time. I find that it's hard to preach in a relevant way without understanding the times. I had a lot of, I'm of course paraphrasing a lot of the comments I saw, and I just want to encourage you guys. I love you. I agree with you that I believe that's the right thing to do. I think it's tough to not do that, and it's tough to be, I think, a layperson in a church just saying, I want to know how to live for Jesus this week, when your church leaders refuse to do that. And again, I don't mean they got to go full culture war. I'm not saying that. Don't worry. I just want to say thank you to those pastors. I say it. I don't say it enough, maybe. There are thousands and thousands, maybe tens of thousands. I don't even know how many pastors there are in this country. Thousands of faithful, hardworking ministers. And you have all sorts of families. You have men and women, married couples, and discipling people, getting with people, training people, doing hard work. It is a thankless job because it's hard work. And usually the only time you hear from people is when things are going bad and people don't encourage you enough. Thank you for what you do. Cooper Stuff loves you. I got love for you. And your reward isn't heaven. Your reward isn't from lay people that do or do not tell you you're doing a good job, and it certainly ain't from me. Your reward is in heaven, so do everything you can do to store up for yourself riches that do not rust and do not fade away. Praise God. That's what we have to look forward to. Moving on. This has been a sorrowful year for me. I received some great messages of encouragement from people, from friends of mine that watch the show. My friend Kyle from Undaunted Life podcast and Luke from Apologia Studios. I think people that know me, that know I'm generally up, but say, hey, I know you're having a hard time, but keep the faith and remember that Christ wins. Amen. I want to thank those people and the comments I've received. it's been a tough year, but I said it the first week. This is going to be a tough year. We are in a time of a great delusion. We're in a time of a great falling away. There is a lot of apostasy happening. There are a lot of people who are not apostate, but are just confused. And they are being, in some cases, in danger of being swept away by this great apostasy happening. You see a lot of churches that are starting to lean left. You see that they're starting to question things. They're starting to signal things. And you go, okay, they've not yet said it, but it kind of sounds like they're compromising the gospel when it comes to abortion, when it comes to sexuality and gender, when it comes to a whole host of things. And I don't like what it's signaling. And what can I do to help save some from that great fall? That is happening. I told you guys, it's going to be a tough year. Politics, whether you want it or not, is so volatile. It is such a religion of the day on the left and the right, let's be honest, that people are swept into activism. And we are the people of God. We are supposed to be swept up by the work of Christ in our generation. What is the church supposed to be doing? What are we supposed to be saying? And as an individual, what am I supposed, where do I put my hands? It's the church that we are, that is, it is the church that is the foremost institution to spread the gospel on the earth. But we are individuals of the body. Where do I put my hands? There's lots of good work being done. Where do I put my hands? Where do I put my voice? What do I do to help this process? And I'll tell you what, it's going to be a hard year, but as I've said, it's going to be a year of incredible blessing for the people of God because we know that Jesus wins. And that is true no matter what your eschatology is. I don't get in eschatology a lot because either way you look at it, Jesus wins. We have a hope. As I said, that treasure that we're working for, it will not rust, it will not fade, it will not be burned up. It will last because that is the heavenly things. That is the spiritual things. Where do I put my hands to serve Christ in my life, in my family, in my generation, with my church, etc.? It's going to be a year of hardship for a lot of people, and people are suckered into activism like crazy. What happens is you get your political ideologies, they are presuppositions, then you look to the Bible to try to justify it. That is not the way that Christianity works. We should be looking to the Bible to say, the Bible is the extreme authority in my life. That is God's word. It is inseparable from God himself. What does your word say to me? Then I look at politics and say, well, how do I outwork that? This is what the Bible says. I want to thank you guys. I want to thank the faithful pastors out there. Thank you for people that have encouraged me. It's been a very tough year, but it has been a good year because I've known the hope of Christ, the hope of glory. All right. So we are going to hold fast to what is good, and we are going to hold fast to the word of God that never, ever, ever changes. Praise God for that. Today, then, is an extension of what we started talking about last week. And whoa, do I have some receipts for you today. This is going to be a banger. It's just going to be a banger, and it's just the way it is. So we're going to jump into it now, but I'll tell you what, give this podcast a 5-star rating. You got to get things going. This is just the way it works. I hate publicizing myself, but it's the way it works if you want to get it out. So you share it, you give a 5-star rating, or you send a comment, whatever you do to get those things going so that it's shared more widely. Because Christians need to hear this stuff because the spirit of the day or the zeitgeist of the moment, the pressure to conform is so great that even wonderful Christian people are getting very confused. At the end of the podcast, I'm going to talk about Alistair Begg, who has been a very faithful minister. Not to beat up on him, but as an example, people who love God, who are solid, who have stood firm in the faith, are just getting swept up into things that are just ridiculous, and you shouldn't be getting swept up into them. So I'm going to say that in I hope a very honoring way, but I'm saving him for the end because he is somebody that is solid. A lot of the other people I'm talking about now aren't solid, and we're going to have the receipts. So I'll tell you what, I want to mention my book. In fact, why don't you watch this 90-second ad for my book because it is pertinent to what we're talking about. Should Christians even get political? What's the deal with that? Don't you know Christians shouldn't be political? I hear that said to me 100 times a day. Many Christian leaders won't dare say anything positive about America or the West to the point that they won't even teach principles of liberty. They act as if freedom from tyranny is just a given, rather than something that has been fought for, bled for, and worth preserving. In fact, they sometimes act as if preserving freedom is akin to being selfish, and since Christ calls us to give up our lives for His sake, that we can't try to hold on to the benefits of our republic. But is that true? Our leaders won't whisper anything good about America because it could seem idolatrous or because it makes the kingdom too political. But have you noticed they don't mind speaking of all the bad things America has done? Apparently, that's just keeping it real. In my opinion, if they want to keep it real, they should tell all of history, good, the bad, and the ugly. But why is this? I believe that they have swallowed the narrative of this age of oppressors and oppressed groups, and the righteous thing to do is to always speak up for the perceived victim groups. And as you know, America is said to be the oppressor. The question I have for these leaders is this: what do you think will replace American democracy after the secular progressive revolution? And will we be more free or less free to live out our faith, to preach the gospel, to raise our children? We all know the answer is that we will be less free. Then I ask this: why do you think it's more pious to remain silent while the world burns? For the answer to this question and what we can do about it, you need to go get my new book, Wimpy, Weak, and Woke. Do it now at johnlcooper.com. Wimpy, Weak, and Woke, this is what it looks like. I'm telling you, this book, it is so pertinent and poignant for what's going on. And you got to go check it out. johnlcooper.com is the only place you can get it, unless you want the Kindle version, which you can get on Amazon. Let's jump in. The hyper-political Christian left who claims they're apolitical. We're not even getting political in here. I posit to you guys that they are, I don't know if I'd say more political than the Christian right, but I think that they are certainly more utopian than the Christian right, and they are confusing Scripture in a way that I just think the Christian right doesn't confuse, even though there is a small, I think, admittedly, a very small segment of people on the Christian right that maybe are a little like confusing Israel and America, like America is now somehow the nation of God, and like Trump is his prophet, and Trump is somehow blowing the horns in Revelation or something. I mean, I've heard some weird I've heard some weird stuff, but it's not really that loud. That's not what the mainstream, what I would call Christian conservative voices, are saying. So that's what we're going to talk about. So I got some receipts here. I want to start with one that I think is just kind of bizarre. I saw this tweet from Matt Walsh. It was actually sent from me from my friend Kyle from Undaunted Life. So I want you to watch this video. Now, this is Rebel News, which I believe Rebel News is Canada. So this probably is happening in Canada, but it's the exact thing that we have been talking about, and that's what Matt Walsh's tweet says. Matt Walsh's tweet says, hey, those of us who have been saying this for like 10 years, this is going to happen, you guys have been calling us crazy, and here it is. And basically what you're dealing with is this. If you're going to believe that a man or a woman, a boy or a girl, can choose his gender, I feel this, my gender identity, I feel this way, therefore I am this thing. So I'm a biological man, but I feel like a woman. That's what I identify as. Therefore, I actually am a woman, and all of society needs to treat me as such. Well, if you say that, then you just follow it down and you go, well, then maybe me, John Cooper, I can identify as Puerto Rican. I can identify as a child. I can say I'm actually a 12-year-old girl. I can be a 12-year-old boy. I can be, all these various things, you can just follow it down. And so what you kind of get into is, wait a minute, if you're going to have men who say that they're women going into women's locker rooms, playing on biological sports, this and that and the other, if that's going to be okay, well then can't you have adults going in children's spaces? And that is basically what we're seeing on this. So why don't you just watch the video from Rebel News. This is a school teacher that is, I think, approximately 50 years old who identifies as a young girl, and he is sharing spaces with girls. Check it out.
Of course, the infamous 50-year-old man who identifies as a 13-year-old girl. That allows Nicholas to swim with the teenage girls. Oh, and by the way, change and shower with them as well. Even though it's against world aquatic rules, he should be competing in another division, other as in transgender division. It's disgusting. But no, he is so entitled, he insists on swimming with real biological girls. We finally have a definitive answer to where Nicholas Cepeda changes and showers. It is in the girls' dressing room. I saw it myself with my own eyes. He didn't go into the male dressing room. He didn't go into the family dressing room.
So this brings up our question. Well, I'm a Christian. I don't want to get political. Don't get involved in culture war. Let me ask you a question. Do you think, for pastors who say, I'm apolitical, I'm just biblical, I'm not getting into any of that stuff, do you think that it is a role of the pastor to speak out against evil? Now, I always say this is the best way to say it. Was it pastoral for Christian preachers and pastors in Germany in 1940? Was it pastoral for them to speak out against the Holocaust? It's the best way to say it. The other best way to say it is, do you think it's pastoral for pastors in 1850, Christian pastors, to speak out against chattel slavery? Everybody now says yes, because in America, we realize the incredible stain of chattel slavery. It's just a fact. And we all hate it, and we're all embarrassed of it, and we all have some kind of guilt about it, and we want to be the first one saying, that was evil. I would have stood against that. Well, do you think it was pastoral to stand against that? If the answer is yes, if the answer is no, then really, as far as I'm concerned, I don't really know what to say to you, because the Bible speaks so much about if you're silent in the face of injustice. So I don't really know what to say about that. That's a different podcast. If you say yes, which I assume most people would, most Christians would say, of course, then would you speak out against this kind of child abuse? Do you think that it is okay for grown men to be in young children's young women's dressing room? Is that okay? Is it? You have the issue of age, of course, in other words, with minors. That's its own issue. Then you have the whole issue of, is it appropriate anyway for a man to be in a woman? It's like so much of this has got to we have to speak about it. But guess who doesn't? This is an amazing thing. I got the receipts. You guys know, Phil Vischer, Sky Jethani, I think is how you pronounce that. Sky Jethani from the Holy Post podcast. Some people have called the Holy Post podcast, they've dubbed it the Unholy Post podcast. I don't remember who those people are, but those are people that are basically saying, well, that's because they're commies. That's because they are heretical commies that want woke cookies. That's because they're serving up something in the kitchen and I smell it. And what is that? I recognize. I smell it. What is that? Oh, yeah, I remember. It's poop. Hey, Cor, is it commie poop? Yes. See? I knew it. You got to remember, I bring it up. Well, what is the Apolitical Holy Post podcast, Phil and Sky? What do they have to say about this? Because they think that conservative Christians are just idolatrous. We are all, remember, Phil Vischer is the one that's in this new movie coming out called Church and State, which is made by Rob Reiner, who is an atheist. And they're saying like the biggest threat to American democracy is Christian nationalism. It's all these right-wing conservative Christians who believe that God is the Lord of this nation and they're doing blah, 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 blah. So they're the ones that aren't too political. They're just keeping it real and biblical. What do they have to say about politics? I'm going to play this clip that I played a million times. If you remember, Sky Jethani is saying basically, there are two different kinds of Christians. There are those that believe in cosmic Christianity, and they view themselves as that, because we just care about justice, all kinds of justice, God being the Lord of the earth, and all these big issues that we have to deal with, and hunger, and this, and because we just keep it biblical. But then you have these idolatrous Christians that just don't really care about that, and all they really care about is issues of, quote, the crotch. Watch this video. It's infamous. I've made it famous on Cooper stuff.
There's cosmic Christianity, and then there is crotch Christianity.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
Crotch Christianity.
Okay.
Is that a real thing, or did you just make that up?
That is what I call it. It is crotch Christianity.
Oh, yes, you made it up.
Goodbye,
it is God cares
audience.
about our crotches and what's happening in and among them. So sexuality, abortion, transgenderism, gay marriage, what bathroom you use, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And if that's your primary set of concerns, then John MacArthur, that makes total sense.
There you go. He just said it. You got these conservative Christians and all they can say about, crotch, what kind of bathroom you go to. Does that seem kind of pertinent when you have 50-year-old men claiming they are little girls going into changing spaces of little girls? Does it seem like that could be a more destructive issue to the culture than your quote unquote, cosmic Christianity tax policies? Because that's what they mean. When they say cosmic Christianity, they're not actually meaning like, guys, we got to have a robust understanding of political philosophy and what the Bible says about the poor and what the Bible says about taxes. If they were going to do quote unquote cosmic Christianity, they probably would go into some sort of actual vision for political philosophy, whether it's theonomy, which is some kind of, looking back to Old Testament covenant law with Israel and finding out how the covenant law of Israel could apply to the nation today. That could be one form, or you could go read Stephen Wolf's Case for Christian Nationalism, where he has a little bit of a different Christian political philosophy. I'm not endorsing that or not endorsing that. I'm saying these are actual political philosophies. You can go to Protestant resistance theory. You can go to socialism. You can go to all sorts of things. Really, all that they're saying is this: we like a progressive vision. We like the progressive vision, which is that the state becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and takes care of poor people, and the state becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and we have wealth redistribution to take money from you who are producing and earning and working and then give it to like 20 million immigrants who are going to come over the border. You know what I'm saying? Or like, we have the most immigrants who have ever come over the border last year. And who's going to take care of them? Well, we are taking care. Our taxes are taking care of them. To them, that's just cosmic Christianity. In other words, cosmic Christianity equals some sort of commie. I'm just using that as pejorative to be funny. They're not actual communists, okay? But they are progressives. They are socialistic leaning, calling themselves biblical. Let me ask you a question. What do you think is more destructive to the society? Saying that there is no such thing as a man and a woman and confusing these destroying the gender binary, saying that all you care about is cosmic Christianity, abortion, transgenderism, what kind of bathroom you're going to use, or like tax policy. Saying that if we don't have wealth redistribution, then that's the only, then everybody's gonna have abortions. The only way to stop abortion is socialistic entitlement programs and wealth redistribution. So that's cosmic Christianity. What do you think destroys the country more? The dissolution of the family, the dissolution of gender, meaning destroying the whole concept that there is a difference between men and women. It's absolutely insane. Well, you heard it. That's just crotch Christianity. So I'm showing you the receipts. If you hear that video from Phil Vischer and Sky Jethani on the Unholy Post podcast, I don't remember who said that. Somebody that must be really studly with a cool beard. Sorry, not a cool beard. That's not really accurate. Gorgeous beard. Hello. What do you think's more political? Cooper stuff saying, you guys, we're going to destroy the fabric of reality once you say there's no such thing as men and women. And you know what? It is child abuse to let a grown man go into a kid's dressing room like that. And it's child abuse to allow minors to enter in to surgeries to remove their hoo-has, okay? And healthy sexual organs. That is child abuse. Do you think that sounds idolatrous? Do you think that sounds like crazy Christian nationalism? You're getting culture war? Or do you think that it's a little more political to say, hey, to say people like Pastor John MacArthur, I mean, if you're like them, if you're so dumb that all you care about is crotches and transgender this and transgender this, then basically that's what you're into is crotch Christianity. Which one of us sounds a little bit more like we're being ideologically, politically driven? If all you read was the Bible, which one do you think, if Jesus came to earth right now in the flesh, if he came to America, watch the news for a few minutes, what do you think Jesus would say? Would he say, hey, the problem is there's 1 million babies aborted a year, and the reason is because you people won't do what I said, which is to go take money from rich people and give it to single moms so everybody can have sex without the responsibility of the consequence of sex, which is a baby being born. Possibly. The possibility of that consequence of being, I would say consequence, it's a set of consequence. It's a blessing, actually, according to the Bible. It's a result. A possible result of having sex is having the kid. So you should know when you're having the sex, a possible thing that happens when I do this is having the kid. Do you think Jesus comes to earth and says, the problem with you is you're not being biblical. You got to take money from rich people without them giving it away. Go in there, the forcible redistribution of wealth. Take their money and give it to single women and to say, hey, I'm giving this to you so that you can go and have unrestrained, liberated sex with anybody you want to, just in case the blessing and miracle of God that creates a life in the womb, in case that happens, I want to make sure that you can end that and snuff out that living being. That would be actual biblical justice. Or do you think Jesus would come to earth and go, whoa, 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 what? A 50-year-old man says he's a little girl in a dressing room, and you think that's okay? This is the same Jesus that said, hey, let the children come to me. Let the children come to me. What do you think? Which one's being more political? Absolutely remarkable. You know what? I'm done with that witness. We're putting him on the jury stand and done with that. Let's move on to number 2. What do we got for number 2? This one, you guys, is a complete doozy. All right. There is an article in First Things, which is a great thing. You might want to look at every once in a while. This is Megan Basham. She is a friend of the show, as you know. She's reporting this. I'm going to read this article. First Things. She tweeted this. Megan Basham did. It's called "Follow the Money to the After Party." Now, you guys, you have to understand. This is. I'll tell you the characters are as we're reading it. Secular news outlets from NPR to the New York Times are hailing Tim Alberta's new book, The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory, for furthering the popular thesis, you wait for it, that evangelicals have abandoned themselves to political idolatry. Here we go. By political idolatry, they mean, quote, political conservatism, as neither Alberta's book nor the many prestige outlets enthusing over it have a world of criticism for Christians who advance left-wing causes. How much have I been telling you guys this? I've been telling you this since 2020. When they talk about Christians are getting involved in political idolatry, they do not mean Christian progressives who say that we have to fight for right to choose, for women to choose to have abortions because there's not enough entitlement programs. We're not talking about Christian leftists who say that we have to open up all of our borders because God said that we have to be, to bless the sojourner, or whatever the scripture says, to treat the sojourner well, or whatever. In other words, because God said that we're supposed to treat strangers well, open up the borders and let's take care of the entire rest of the world. You know what I'm saying? They're not those people. No, it's only Christian conservatives. All right, so here we go. However, a curious passage in the book suggests that those leveling this charge may be most guilty of infecting the church with partisanship. Let me read it again. A curious passage in the book suggests that those leveling the charge, this is the charge of political idolatry against people like Cooper stuff, those people leveling the charge may be most guilty of infecting the church with partisanship. Does that sound like Cooper stuff? Yes, it does. Alberta reports on The After Party, a forthcoming program led by Duke Divinity Consulting Professor Curtis Chang and developed with New York Times columnist David French and Christianity Today editor-in-chief Russell Moore. Now, let me explain this. Well, read one more. The program offers pastors and small groups a curriculum, quote, reframing Christian political identity from today's divisive, partisan options. Here's what you got to understand is happening in Christianity. The move in Christian evangelicalism is to say this: the right is wrong, the left is wrong, Republicans are wrong, Democrats are wrong. Tim Keller made this famous. I'm not beating up on Tim Keller, I'm just being honest. He made up this famous, hey, Jesus isn't right or left. There are things on the right that are good. There are things that are left on the good. He's the one that made that famous. He created what we call the third way. And that is Jesus isn't right or left. He's biblical. And what that did was it created a thing that said, oh, okay, so some are good on the right, some are good on the left. Therefore, we're not on either side because they're both equally evil, you guys. So what you end up with is this: the killing of innocent human beings. Yeah, of course that's evil, but so is the fact that that white people as a social group make more money than brown people as a social group or black people as a social group. Both of those things are evil. And so they're equal. You can't choose that one of these things is worse than the other. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you think that there is equivalence? Do you think that Tim Keller himself or any of these people, would they have gone back in the 1850s and said, okay, one of these parties wants to end chattel slavery, but the other party is saying, hey, let's just be honest. There really aren't enough entitlement programs, and we really do need to help people who are born with disabilities who only have one leg. Do you really think they would go back and do that? Do you really think they'd go back and say, well, yeah, but it's about tax policy in the end because we're not doing enough for drug rehabs and the opioid addiction, and that is just as evil as chattel slavery? No, they would not be doing that. All that the third way is, and I'm saying it on Cooper stuff, if you disagree with me, I love you. Send me a comment. Maybe I'm wrong. It's an opinion, okay? But I'm right. No, I'm kidding. Send me an opinion if you disagree. All that they're doing is creating a third way that makes it possible to convince Christian conservatives that, hey, you've just kind of assumed that you were a conservative because of abortion and because of sexuality and gender and because of things like that. But you actually should consider that it makes just as much sense to be on the left. In other words, what they really wanted to do was make Christians not so conservative. I believe that with all of my heart. You believe whatever you want to believe. So who are they doing this in league with? Russell Moore. Russell Moore is one of the most powerful evangelicals in the nation. Editor at Christianity Today, which I call Christianity Yesterday. They've left the building. I'm not saying they're heretics. I'm not saying that they're not saved. That belongs to the Lord. I'm saying that they are teaching wrong things, unbiblical things, unethical things, things that just do not square with historic Christianity. I've covered him on the show. Russell Moore is one of the biggest advocates in the anti-Christian nationalism thing, to link anybody that is a conservative to January 6th. You got a gun, and ironically, people that went into the Capitol building didn't even have guns that I'm aware of. But not only are you somebody that went in the Capitol, you went in with like an assault weapon, all right? You went in with an assault weapon with Jesus on the cross, a picture of Jesus on the cross on a t-shirt, except that he was wearing a MAGA hat, all right? That's you. Why? Because you vote for Trump. That's what they're trying to do. Back to the article. According to Alberta, during its germination phase, the project hit a roadblock. Evangelical donors hit little interest in funding an explicitly political Bible study. So people went, wait a minute. You want to do a curriculum saying that our politics are too divisive and we've got to stop. So we're going to do a third way, which is on the right, some things are correct. On the left, some things are correct. Let's just find a third way. And Christians went, I don't really want to support this. Now, I'm guessing that some of these people didn't want to support it because they went, something doesn't smell right. Something doesn't smell right. Tim Keller's politics did not smell right. They just don't. They smell like you're trying to take me left. I bet that people went, I don't know, but I'm going to show you in a little while. This is what's happening in Christianity. Everybody is coming out with books basically saying we got to stop being political divisive and just be about the Bible. But 99% of them are basically coming from people who vote Democrat. And they are bringing moral equivalency from abortion to the fact that we don't have enough socialistic entitlements. I'm telling you, Andy Stanley did this. One of the other books I'm going to mention later. They're all basically like that, you guys. So let's keep reading. Now notice, they don't want to support it. They're like, it's explicitly political. I don't want to do curriculums like that are going to be so powerful for the evangelical church. It's going to be so influential. I don't really think we should spend money on that. So what did they do? According to Alberta, during its term, I just said that, blah, 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 blah. In fact, so what did they do? They turned to secular left-wing foundations. Alberta's book offers no details about the funding of the project, but a bit more of internet sleuthing reveals that in May 22, by the way, Megan Basham is a journalist, so she's been looking into all these things and she reports on it. She's quite awesome. Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors announced that the after party would be one of the 32 beneficiaries of their New Pluralist Project. It's called New Pluralist Project. Do you remember last week we talked about pluralism? The New Pluralist pluralism means that there is not one authority to structure culture. There's multiple authorities. So in other words, we can't say, hey, abortion is wrong because the Bible says X. No, because the Bible's only one authority. There are other authorities like what? humanism, evolution, my feels, all that kind of stuff. Okay, the New Pluralist Project, which is investing $10 million to, quote, address divisive forces. If that money were divided evenly, it would be more. It would more than cover the entire $250,000 budget of Chang's umbrella organization, Redeeming Babel, which is behind the After Party. While Chang and company claim their program isn't focused on parties or policies, the Rockefeller announcement noted it would launch in the battleground of Ohio. All right, they called it the battleground of Ohio, which means they're seeing this as a political thing, right? Rockefeller's interest in bankrolling Bible studies is a red flag. And the same grant round as the After Party, listen, is a group seeking to promote the, quote, leadership of rural LGBTQ people. Another is committed to, quote, keeping the remaining fossil fuel resources in the ground. Now, Russell Moore, David French, all these people are all into the climate stuff. They're super duper into the climate things. And they would say, yeah, abortion is bad, but so is killing the earth. And so as a Christian, you have to hold both of those things in an equal footing, which, by the way, means they've been duped. They're either duped into all the climate research stuff that is propaganda. They're either duped into it or they know it's not real and they're doing it for some other purpose, nefarious purpose, to make money, namely. I don't know. Not saying they do that. They might just be duped. I don't know. All right, here we go. In the name of climate justice. In 2019, the After Party's benefactor gave $100 million to the Collaborative for Gender and Reproductive Equity, an initiative that funds efforts to safeguard abortion and ensure youth have access to, quote, gender-affirming care. A full accounting of all Rockefeller grantees committed to furthering hard-left causes would require a book long enough to rival Alberta's. Okay, so they keep going about Black Lives Matter and all the various things they've done. I don't have time to read it, so I'm going to move on. The point is this. You have to ask yourself why. If they're doing something that's just apolitical, hey, we're the ones that aren't political. The problem is those Christian nationalists, idolatrous Christian conservatives who are fighting culture war and, quote, crotch Christianity. Those people are politically idolatrous. We're the apolitical ones. We're going to put a curriculum together that is saying, guys, we're third way. Abortion is bad, but so is killing the earth. We need climate justice, just like we want justice for the unborn. And the only way to do that is to have socialistic entitlements. Do we take money from people and we give it to other kinds of people? We take money to people and we force their businesses to comply into all the climate stuff and all the LGBT stuff. And we do it in the name of Jesus, but we're not political. So the question is, you guys, why? If Christians don't want to fund that, why would progressive, left-wing, atheistic companies say, yeah, we would like to give $250,000 or $500,000 to that initiative, and the other $500,000 we're going to give to an LGBTQ initiative, and another $500,000 to gender and equity to make sure that youth, meaning minors, can have gender-affirming care. You know what gender-affirming care means? That doesn't mean helping youth. That means care specifically pointed in the direction that when a kid says, I'm having some gender confusion, gender affirming care means that the presupposition is that we affirm your gender identity. If you're a boy and you say, I'm kind of having feelings like I might be a girl, they have to affirm it. Gender affirming care doesn't mean we sit down and we talk about why you feel that way and do you even want to feel that way? No. You affirm the feelings. That is the number one thing you have to do. You affirm it. And if you affirm it, then that will probably lead to some sort of hormone blockers, puberty blockers, drugs, things to create different kinds of hormones, the opposite hormones than you actually have, that kind of stuff, possibly leading to transition. Well, that's where they're giving the rest of their money. Why do they want to give money to a Bible study that goes around, what will be one of the most influential Bible studies in mainstream evangelicalism in America, to say, quit being so divisive about politics? Why would they do that? Why would they do that? Except they realize that this group of people, Russell Moore, David French, and this Alberta character, they realize they may say they're apolitical, but they're clearly not. These are progressive people. They want to change Christianity from the inside. They want to revolutionize the faith into a new kind of faith that is progressive, that is accepted by the world into a new pluralism that says, well, yeah, of course, we do serve God, but there are other very valid forms of authority, and that might be secular humanism. I mean, that might be LGBT initiatives. That might be the abortion lobbyists. That might be communism. That might be a bunch of commie poop. I smell them up in this. I'm telling you, I smell commies everywhere. Tell me that's not what's going on. You know what's going on. They wouldn't be putting money into it. They would, when they're sponsoring BLM and they're sponsoring all these progressive causes. They're not going to do that. So you know what? I'm done with that witness. Let's move on. You got to watch this amazing Instagram post by my friend Allie Stuckey, who's Allie Beth Stuckey, who's a friend of the show. And she is, so basically, Trump won Iowa. We all know that. Beth Moore comes out because she's an anti-Trumper. And so she's doing her, hey, I'm not even being political here. I'm not even being political because I'm just biblical. But I am just saying, why would people even want him as a leader? Not being political, but I'm saying that these are the kind of qualities they actually want. And how could that possibly be? He's so prideful and he sends mean tweets. Watch Allie Beth's response to him on this video. It's probably about 90 seconds. Watch this clip.
By last night and trying to practice what people call radical acceptance, not of a presidential candidate, because surprising things happen, just plainly sobered by the thought that with other individuals to choose from, masses of people still hail Trump. He's what they actually want in a leader, a bully, she says, verbally abusive, artfully and purposely divisive bully who has all but left the Republican Party unrecognizable. To say that people want these aspects of Trump, to be verbally abusive, to be a bully, that's not true. They see him as someone who is fighting against the system. They see him as a victim of the system, as a victim of the establishment. They see how these institutions like the intelligence agencies, like state governments, the federal government is coming after him. And they think that they are all coming after him because he is trying to fight for good. And I think they also look at things like, look, there was peace in the Middle East, unprecedented while Trump was president. Our economy was doing well while Trump was president. We were able to overturn Roe because of Trump's Supreme Court picks. And so I think they're looking at things like that. They don't necessarily like a lot of the things that he says. They don't necessarily like all aspects of his character and personality, but they look at his track record and they see things that they like. Beth, I understand, though, your confusion about, okay, we've got these other candidates over here. If you're a Republican and you're a conservative, why Trump? I get that. I get asking that question. But assuming the worst motives of the people who are voting for him, you're indicting millions of Americans who you are saying all support a bully because they themselves are bullies or love bullies. That's just not true. There are better understandings. There are better reasons. Maybe talk to some of those people.
So here we go. This is it. Beth Moore, I'm not even being political. I'm just saying this is actually the kind of things they want. So she's not being political. Let me ask you, how did you feel when Beth Moore came out and said, I can't believe that quote, evangelicals for Biden, this is actually the kind of leader they want? How did you feel about her response to that? Oh, wait a minute. That's right. She never did that. How did you feel when she came out and said, hey, I just got to say, President Biden's speech where he calls half the country extremist, when he called MAGA voters the biggest threat to our democracy, when he said that this country is born in white supremacy and that white people are systemically racist, how did you feel about Beth Moore's response to that, saying, how can they go for this guy as a leader? Because she never did one, but she's not political. She's only saying, you see what we're dealing with. Allie Stuckey nails it. Why do you go to the very worst thing that somebody could think? Why do you go to the very worst thing? So these Christians are just inherently bigoted and they just hate people and they just love being mean. This whole idea, it's so stupid. This whole idea that Trump is mean and Biden is not is absolutely stupid. It's just obviously not real. President Biden is not a nice person, okay? I've said to you, I don't like tons of Trump's tweets. I don't like tons of the things he says. I go, oh, here we go again. Did you have to say, oh, those policies pretty dang good. But a lot of the things he says, I'm just like, this is just not helpful. I wouldn't say it. I do think it's kind of mean. Don't dig it. Do you think that Biden's the nice guy? Are you serious? I'm tired of this. Tired of this idea of that we're not being political law, but we're just saying that why don't you say something about the fact? Do you think that it's nice? Do you think a president who wants to loosen restrictions for the right to slaughter human beings in the womb, do you think that that's nice? Is that polite? Like, I don't even know what that means. If you get somebody that's super duper 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 rude and someone else that is like, I've never said a rude thing in the whole world. I do think that it is justice to make sure we can slaughter as many babies in the womb as possible. Which one of those people do you think is a more rude person? It just depends on what you mean by it. And if all you mean is like signaling your tone of voice, the tone police, then I think that you're just a shallow person. I think it's completely absurd, and you are a tool of the left. That's what I think. I think you're an actual tool of the left. Actions matter more than words. Am I saying that I like all of Trump's words? No, I don't. I've said it so many times. I'm kind of tired of saying it because I feel like I'm giving it more credence than it deserves. No, I don't like the words. I just care about the actions so much more that you seem like a non-serious person to me. Somebody that nicely slaughters human beings politely. We're done. We're done. And by the way, Biden also says a lot of rude stuff. It's sort of like, the biggest threat to this country is white supremacy because we're systemically racist without us knowing it. It's just so dumb. I'm sorry to keep saying it, but I just think it's dumb. So you know what, Beth Moore, you know what? I'm done with this witness. Last thing I'm going to read, and this one is painful. This one is it's just painful, guys. So Alistair Begg, I'm going to be honest, first of all, to say Alistair Begg is a preacher. I think he's in his 70s now. He's been faithful for a long, 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 long time. I do need to say this from the beginning. I am not actually that familiar with Alistair Begg, which I know for some reason, no. As I've told you guys, up until only 2015, I didn't even know who like Tim Keller was. I knew very little about anything. I didn't know John MacArthur. I didn't really know any of these people. Beth Moore, didn't know Beth Moore. It just wasn't what I did. I read books from people that have been dead for hundreds of years. So I wasn't keeping up. So I don't really know Alistair Begg. But what I do know from people that I love, they're like, dude, this is crazy because Alistair Begg is solid. He's been solid for decades and decades and decades. So this is not a beat up on Alistair Begg. This is to show what happens. This is to show the level of pressure we are getting from the world to conform. All right. So let's read this from Alistair Begg. This is on Church Leaders from my friend. I think this is Jesse Jackson that wrote this. Yes. So Alistair Begg takes heat for advising grandmother to attend grandchild's transgender wedding. Christian leaders are challenging well-known Scottish pastor Alistair Begg after he shared that he encouraged a grandmother to attend her grandson's transgender wedding. Begg's comments came during a September 23 interview, blah, 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 with Bob Levine for Begg's new book. All right, so here's what you got to know. This is why this is so very important. So very important. I want to be clear. Alistair Begg is not in the category of Christian commies, all right? He's not in the category of the woke people. He's not in the Sky Jathani, Phil Vischer category in terms of my thinking. And again, I'm not saying those people aren't born again. That's up to the Lord. But I do think they're absolutely dead wrong on so much of this, and they're doing a lot of harm. Alistair Begg's not in that category. But listen, he has a new book out, and he's promoting it, and it's called what? The Christian Manifesto, and this is where it gets painful. In the Christian Manifesto, Begg focuses on Jesus' sermon found in Luke 6. In a promotion for the book, Begg said, quote, "It is a manifesto that is not oriented towards the political arena, but towards the relational and individual one." Begg, who is the senior pastor of the non-denominational Parkside Church in Cleveland, Ohio, and the Bible teacher at Truth for Life, was asked by Lapine how he hopes his new book will change readers. Quote, "I hope that it will be different," Begg replied, recalling the lyrics from old hymn, "Standing in the Need of Prayer." "It's not my brother nor my sister, but it's me, O Lord, standing in the need of prayer." Okay, I love that so far. I'm in. We're talking about personal piety. Love personal piety. I'm all about it. I love the Puritans. Love it so far. I hope that would be multiplied. I hope that our church family, those who choose to read this book, that it might have an impact among us, Begg explained. Cooper loves it so far. Begg went on to share how he was recently asked for advice by a grandmother on whether she should attend her grandson's transgender wedding. Blah, 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 blah. Tell me what to do. She said, Beg answered, people may not like this answer. Beg then explained that he replied to the grandmother by asking her, does your grandson understand your belief in Jesus? The grandmother responded, yes. So Beg asked, does your grandson understand that your belief in Jesus makes it such that you can't countenance in any affirming way the choices that he has made in life? So in other words, does he understand that you can't actually affirm? You can't actually say, hey, I think it's great you're doing this. That's just I don't know if that's his language from Scotland or if that's his old language. She again responded with yes. So therefore, Beg suggested that she not only attend the wedding, but also bring a gift. This is where Cooper stuff diverges, okay? Well then, okay, Beg said, as long as he knows that, then I suggest that you do go to the ceremony, and I suggest that you buy them a gift. Beg informed Lepine that his response caught the grandmother off guard, so he explained to her why. Well, here's the thing. Your love for them may catch them off guard, but your absence will simply reinforce the fact that they said, these people are what I always thought, judgmental, critical, unprepared to countenance anything, Beg said. Beg admitted that his response to the grandmother's situation is a fine line, but he believes that Christians need to start taking risks to build bridges for the gospel. And it is a fine line, isn't it? Beg said, and people need to work out their own salvation with fear and trembling. But I think we're going to have to take that risk, he continued. We're going to have to take that risk a lot more if we want to build bridges into the hearts and lives of those who don't understand Jesus and don't understand that he is a king. So let me see if there's anything. I don't think I need to read anything else in here. Here's what we're getting at, you guys. Again, Alistair Begg, from what I understand, not that I know him, but I feel in very good counsel I've received. He is not in those categories. You're dealing with somebody that just loves people, wants them to understand, wants other people that don't believe, in this case, the transgender identified person or whatever you're dealing with. Basically, the person that doesn't know Jesus, I want them to know I love them. I can amen that. You do want them to know that you love them. Yes. God doesn't hate people that identify as transgender. On the contrary, he loves them. He created them in his image. I amen all of that. But what you're looking at here is this. What you're looking at is this. If you don't begin to, and here's what I said, his book, The Christian Manifesto, in other words, it's another book that is about personal piety and saying we don't need to be making about all these political issues. Well, there's a part of that I amen. But as you can see, as I just said last week, it's crazy that I did that podcast last week, and now this is happening. As I said last week, yeah, fine, don't get political, but there's a lot of things about the Bible that if you don't apply them, you're going to get swept up by the moment. That's just what's going to happen. You're going to get swept up by the moment and then say to Christians, stop being political. It's not about politics. It's about personal piety. And without you knowing it, you are going to begin to change and drift left with a culture, and you will be unrecognizable. Do you think 10 or 15 years ago, Alistair Begg would be saying to people, yeah, I think that you should go to a wedding of somebody who identifies as the opposite sex, marrying someone of the same sex. I do think you should go as a Christian. I think you should bring a gift to celebrate the Christian union of marriage, even though this is completely at odds with the created order. It's mind-blowing. So the question is, I would have for Alistair Begg and all these people, okay, do you think then, as a Christian, that I should go to a wedding ceremony that is like, say, for instance, polyamorous? Polyamory is just like groups of people in relationships. All right, so you got polygamy is a man who takes multiple wives. Polyamory is a group dynamic. Maybe it's two women and one dude. Maybe it's two dudes and one woman. Maybe it's two dudes and two women. Maybe it's three women, a dude, a trans-identified person, and, a robot. It can be anything, any grouping of relationships. And that's not just about sex, okay? We're not talking about just like, not trying to shock anybody with these words, but like a sex party or an orgy or something. We're talking about a relationship, a union. So can then we go and bring a gift to a polyamorous marriage where two dudes and two chicks are getting married? Can you do that? I wrote about this in my book, Wimpy, Weak, and Woke, which you got to go get. We're already seeing the manufacturing of robots for purposes of sexual intercourse. That's already in existence. So the question is at what point will people begin to say, hey, this isn't just my robot, but this is kind of a companion with AI? Are you serious? We got to consider what it's going to be like to have an actual robot companion. I'm not saying it's like Blade Runner where they're like actual replicants that begin to think for themselves or something. I'm talking about AI and whatever that may mean, and already does. I know some of you probably think I'm nuts. You got to go read my book to find out what I'm talking about, I guess. What about when they say, I want the state to recognize my marital union? This is more than just some weird fetish I have. This is not just some kind of sexual intercourse thing. This is like my partner, and I want the state to recognize. So as a Christian, can I go to that? It's insanity. Marriage is a Christian institution ordained at the beginning of creation in Genesis. So would we say, hey, it actually is a Christian thing? We got to build bridges for people who want to marry their robots. We got to build bridges for people who want to marry animals. I know it sounds ridiculous, but is there anything else in the 2020s that sounds kind of ridiculous that you just couldn't believe 10 or 15 years ago? 10 years ago, would you ever have believed there would be a news report of a 50-year-old school teacher dude who says he's a little girl and is allowed to go into dressing rooms with little girls at schools? Mandated by the state, and if you speak against it, you might lose your job. We need Jesus. Woo! We need Jesus up in here. In fact, I think it's a good time to consult. What would Jason Whitlock say about this?
All of this to me is just satanic.
Fact check. Hold on. Wait a minute. Jason Whitlock said it's satanic. Let me get my Bible. Hold on. True. Fact check, true. My point is this. The Christian left is hyper-political. They claim that they are apolitical, and they aim to try to confuse you. This is happening so fast, and they say it in convincing ways. They ridicule you. If you're somebody that thinks that transgender law is more destructive to this country than disallowing the borders to open up for open border immigration and to redistribute money from people who earn money to people that aren't even citizens of the country. And they call that, that's because you just care about crotch Christianity. Like, they ridicule you. They mock you, even though they are the ones who have gotten deceived by the spirit of the age. Do not be deceived. Stand firm. Hold fast to what is true. That's what the Word of God says. In fact, I believe it is in 1 Thessalonians. It'll be the last thing that I read to encourage you in your faith. Let's see what 1 Thessalonians says. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. Now concerning the times and the seasons, brothers, you have no need to have anything written to you, for you yourselves are fully aware that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. While people are saying there is peace and security, then sudden destruction will come upon them as labor pains come upon a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. But you are not in darkness, brothers, for that day to surprise you like a thief. For you are all children of the light, children of the day. We are not of the night or of the darkness. So then let us not sleep as others do, but let us keep awake and be sober. And then at the very end of the thing, he says, let's start with verse 12. We ask you, brothers, to respect those who labor among you, blah, 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 to esteem them very highly. We urge you, brothers, admonish the idle, encourage the faint-hearted, help the weak, be patient with them all. See that no one repays anyone evil for evil, but always seek to do good to one another and to everyone. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Do not quench the spirit. Do not despise prophecies, but test everything. Hold fast what is good. Abstain from every form of evil. I want to focus on hold fast what is good, and I want to focus on the beginning. You are not children of the darkness. You're people that live in the day. Now, I'm not going to get into eschatology. That is an eschatological debate on what that beginning of that means. I don't want to get into it because I kind of think it doesn't really matter for what we're talking about. We are not people who are confused about the times that we are not asleep. We're not in darkness going, I don't really understand what's happening, or it doesn't really matter. Everything's really golden. It's peace. All I care about is my own personal piety, and that's all I can do about it. It's just peace, peace. But there is no peace, which is from the Old Testament, by the way. That is not us. We know what time it is. We know what hour it is. We know the danger that it is. We are not blind to what is going on. We are not going, oh, everything's really hunky-dory. It is not hunky-dory. Yet we do have peace because we know that Jesus wins in the end. And I don't care what your eschatological beliefs are. Jesus wins in the end. Hold fast to what is good. Know the difference between good and evil. And do not listen to people who are lying to you, who are giving you false teaching. And do not listen to heretics or commies. Have a great week.
Read the Bible.